political panel, Democratic strategist Antoine Seawright, Republican strategist Rina Shah. So, Antoine, first with you, if it is true, as polls seem to indicate, that a fair number of American voters aren't quite sure about Kamala Harris, where she stands, et cetera, open to her, but not quite sure, they want to know more, how, in your view, does Harris address that tomorrow night, given that this is going to be possibly the biggest viewership moment, at least for the final 2 months of the campaign?
Well, I think the campaign has been crystal clear from day one that she was coming into this as the underdog. And if you do a jog through history about Kamala Harris's career, you would know that she's always had to punch above her weight, and she's always had to defy political gravity, if you will, and exceed expectations. So she's not new to that. She's true to that. I think everything she does is an opportunity to introduce herself further to the American people. The difference between other opportunities and tomorrow night is she will have her opponent on the stage. She will get an opportunity to talk about her record, his record, push back on the lies that we know he will regurgitate, as well as paint a picture for the American people going forward, giving them something to vote for, not always something to vote against.
Rina, the fact is, American voters should have a pretty good idea of where Donald Trump stands on things, given we've had 8 years or more of him, including 4 years in office, and he's been quite public with some fairly dramatic policy proposals in a second term if he were to win. I wonder, does the campaign see it as an advantage for Trump to lean into those hardline positions in a debate like this, or attempt to do what he's tried to do here and there in recent weeks, which is attempt to moderate positions, even if in a way that's not convincing, for instance, on abortion, given he was the man who appointed the justices who overturned Roe v. Wade. But do they look at this as an opportunity to lean into those harder right positions, or to attempt to convince voters he's more centrist than they might imagine?
First things first, we still have such a long way to go after tomorrow night. To me, the campaign begins tomorrow night in some ways, but it's also a moment in which the possibilities become seemingly endless. I mean, the summer really showed us what is, again, to expect the unexpected. And we know that in politics, but when you're talking about how the Trump campaign games out this moment, a moment in which they're coming in a bit weak, look, there's no question about it. There was a really successful DNC in Chicago just last month, and the Walz and Harris campaign are coming off of that because Walz has had a good reception, but J.D. Vance has not, and Donald Trump is right at the door of 80. So we need to be very clear. This is a man who's in cognitive decline, and we see that in how he exhibits his sentiments every day of the week. He's a serial flip-flopper, but lately, Jim, I've seen him behave in a manner that isn't just angry and unhinged because it's like palatable, right, to his base. It's because he's scared and doesn't know what's going to work. And so after tomorrow, I think we'll see the campaign do what it's tried to do for many weeks, which is thread that needle of moderation, while at the same time saying, hey, right wing, we got you. We'll enact a lot of Project 2025.
I mean, he's quite public, is he not, with his plans for a second term? Let's just take case in point, his post on Truth Social this weekend about going after election officials he called cheaters. I'm going to quote from it here: the 2024 election, where votes have just started being cast, that's not true yet, will be under the closest professional scrutiny, and when I win, those people that cheated will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. Those involved in unscrupulous behaviors will be sought out, caught, prosecuted at level, unfortunately, never seen before in our country. Just a brief fact check, Antoine. I mean, it is Trump himself who was indicted multiple times for attempting to overturn the 2020 election, much of which was public, right? I mean, public pressure on Republican campaign officials not to honor the results of that election. How concerned should we be as we read these words as a menu of what he intends if he were to win?
Well, we should be scared as hell. Forget about Democratic versus Republicans for a second. just from an American standpoint, Donald Trump's campaign of revenge and retribution is live and in color, and it's happening right before our eyes. His policy agenda, the most extreme we've seen in modern day history, and the people he has around him, his disciples, are unapologetic about their efforts to implement Trump's Project 2025 if given the opportunity. That's why I remind folks that for people who look like me, this election is a survival election. We are casting a survival vote. But for every other constituency that falls under the American umbrella, this is a generational election, because whoever wins this election will ultimately have a large say-so in what happens in this country for the next 46 to 56 years. When you think about the courts, when you think about the policy agenda, and when you think about protecting the progress that has already been made, particularly in these past 4 years.
So, Rina, if going too far, right, and sometimes saying things that sound a little crazy, is one of Trump's main weaknesses, how big a win is it for his campaign to have the mics muted?
This mics muting issue is I think a little confusing for me on the one hand, because I don't really know who it serves. On the one hand, you want this guy revealed to be unstable, Trump. If you're not for him and you want to say, look, let's paint him out to be completely chaotic, unhinged, unable to control himself, because that's not leader-like. But we're dealing with a guy who's already been in the White House, known to the public. So we just have to come back to, again, what are the values here? And Harris has got to promulgate those at every turn she gets on that stage. So Mike's muted or not, what she's able to put out there about what she's for can counter this balance of what he's against. And let's be clear about what he's against. You know, it seems like almost everything. When we talk about rights, he wants to limit our voices and our votes. He wants to restrict bodily autonomy almost entirely. So I'm talking about abortion here. But he wants to expand the rights of guns, these inanimate objects that are killing people. And I'm a big supporter of the Second Amendment. I've been a gun owner, responsible one in the past, until my spouse and I both decided I'm not going to own a gun anymore. So you're not going to hear this anti-gun rhetoric from me. But I really do believe we need a ban on assault weapons and a real sense of leadership on this issue, because kids are getting gunned down in schools. And as an American mother, I'm not all right with that. And so Trump needs to speak to the American mother, as does Harris. But more than anything, Harris needs to paint the picture of a more prosperous, promising America for all of us.
You know, I mean, 3 shootings, what they had in common: the Appalachia shooting, the one on the Kentucky interstate, and the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, AR platform rifles. They all had the same weapon. Rina Shah, Antoine Seawright, thanks so much to all of you.